high five.
Packers jumping around, they rush 4. Plenty of time for John, now squeezes, steps up in the pocket. LA can run, inside the 10, head first, he fires off the 5-yard line.
Manning out of the gun. Manning lets it fly. It's caught by Thomas. There's the record for Peyton Manning.
Rushing 4, ball comes out of the hands of Newton. It's on the ground and still on the ground. Picked up by T.J. Ward at the 4-yard line.
And here we go. First snap of the overtime. The Broncos have been in 3 overtime games this year. They won them all. Got him at the 40. It's Thomas at the 50. Stiff arm got him 3 to the 30. To the 20. Thomas to the 10. Denver's going on to New England. They win it on the first one.
And welcome to the show, everybody, right here on the MHRT Network. I am Mundungus Creevy, joined by my co-host Glenn Hauser, Mr. Boggins, Cameron Parker, and Bree. Now, you are currently listening to the 5280 podcast, which airs every Tuesday at 7654 on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. Now, we have a slight bit of a change to our schedule. We are starting a brand new show called The Wild Wild West, which is an AFC West show, which is going to feature Richie Rich A, repping the Broncos, Casey Proctor, repping the Chiefs, Wi-Fi Willie, repping the Raiders, and Coach Defense, repping the Chargers. And that's going to start Wednesday, April 6th, and will be at 7:30, 6:30, 5:30, 4:30 every Wednesday. Then we have the Nothing Rhymes, the Orange and Blue podcast on Thursdays, and Broncos Breakdown with Bronco Bill will be moving to every Friday. Now, we have a former Denver Broncos cheerleader and a fantastic dancing T-Rex. She's currently a sports anchor reporter for CBS 4 in Denver. Romi Bean, everybody. Yeah.
What's up?
What's going on?
I'm pumped to be here. Me and my dino arms.
Mike has those, but they're just his arms.
I got some.
Wow.
In there somewhere.
Wow. So, starting off the show, we've kind of had a crazy couple weeks with free agency getting started. Romy, what are you thinking about free agency for the Broncos so far?
Oh man, I'm loving it. I gotta tell you, George Payton's got to do something really bad to like move down in my book, because that man has earned so much cachet with me. You could bring in a man off the street, and I'd be like, yes, I love this move. Brilliant. But I mean, gosh, in all seriousness, everything he's done has been fantastic. Obviously, it's an A+ because of Russ, however you look at it. Still, like, can't believe he pulled that off the way he pulled it off. So smooth, no leaks. And then everything he's added since then has been a huge win. A lot of that, of course, is the Russell Wilson effect, right? These are things that we haven't seen in Denver since Peyton was here. And that, of course, is when you have a franchise quarterback, people want to come play for you. And they don't demand outrageous money because they know that there's a good chance you can get a ring. Oh, and all the playoff bonuses. Oh, and the Super Bowl bonuses, right? But because they know that they can win. And so it's been really cool, I think, just seeing that effect of, obviously, every time a guy comes here, regardless, they're happy, right? In years past, they've been happy. They want to be here. But you can sense that little extra oomph with all the guys that we hear from that have signed here. I mean, DJ Jones was probably my favorite because he was no bones about it. Like he said, I wanted to be here. But then as soon as they signed Russ, I knew like right away. And Randy Gregory had similar comments. So that part has just been cool. The Randy Gregory, of course, is an interesting one, right? This is either going to be the hit of the century or, it could be a miss, Randy Gregory in the Mile High City, who knows? But, it does feel like he's certainly got his life together. So that one could turn out to just be a huge hit. And again, George Payton has earned so much cachet with me that I trust that he's done all the research. And from top to bottom, I just feel like they filled, there's still some areas of need, but what I like is that they're heading into the draft without any serious, dire needs. And that way they can go by best player available. I know sometimes people roll their eyes at that, but it's true, right? You don't want to sacrifice You don't want to, go for something of need. Thus, as you look past in the history of drafts, the best drafts are when you can just take what you got because you don't have any glaring holes. So it's exciting.
So you were at that news conference where Russ was introduced. What was the environment like there, and what's the opinion of the press corps overall now that we have a quarterback and it's a good chance the team's going to win?
Oh man, excitement, a lot of excitement because it's not like you're like, oh, we gotta have this like kind of fake hope or you get excited, but we all think back to, I mean, we all lived this, right? Halfway through last year, and you're like, and if they win a game, you're like, okay, okay, or the whole last 8 weeks of the year where they were in the hunt, and you're like, okay,
Right.
okay, like whatever. Whereas you think this year, if they lose a game, you're going to be like, okay, teams lose games, right? Nobody stays undefeated. You know that it's going to be a practical approach to just every single week, and to like, you're going to lose some games. That's okay. But you know that they're going to win a lot more that they're going to lose. And I think the biggest thing was for those who had covered Peyton Manning. Now I hadn't, I unfortunately got into the media side of this business post Peyton Manning, lucky me. So from someone like me who hasn't covered a guy like Peyton, it was just exciting. It was so exciting because everything with Russ was talking about, you're like, oh man, this guy's the real deal, right? This is going to be where, oh, okay, when he talks, people listen, where he has a process that is going to change the culture of this building. It's not like in the years past where they were just grasping at straws. I said this like last week somewhere, but what struck me, like Von Miller, when he went to LA, and he said, and everyone got upset at the time, but he said, when they lose in LA, it wasn't a big deal. Everyone just like kept going status quo and tried to reinvent the wheel. When he was in Denver, every week it was like reinventing the wheel. And that kind of came back to me in the Russ presser. And I was like, this is it. Like, they're going to like lose during the season. They're just going to keep going. They're going to get back on track. They're going to win the next week. There's going to be no panic because they've got a leader now. Russ is, man, he just took command of that room. And from the jump, you could just tell there's a culture change. I talked to Justin Simmons off to the side, and he said, man, I mean, you could tell in this room today, he said to me, he's been here a day and everything's changed already, right? And there are so few guys in the league that can do that. There are so few guys that have the cachet and just have the natural leadership skills. And we got one of those guys now, like unbelievable. But it's just so cool to see it in action. And almost like there was an excitement, but just this feeling of calm, like, oh my gosh, yes, the Broncos are back to like being the Broncos again. This is actually going to be like legitimate football. We're going to have really good football to talk about. When they win, you're going to have reasons to talk about why they won. When they lost, there'll be legitimate reasons, why they lost, but just so much excitement. They're like, oh my God, there's a real professional running the ship now.
You've talked about the excitement and the culture change with the Broncos in general. I assume covering the team is now a lot more fun. I saw your tweet about glorious for Russell Wilson throwing to Jerry Jeudy, those hype videos building up all that anticipation for the season. What in your mind is Hackett's system as far as like a roster and team friendly mentality going to affect not only Russell Wilson in the receiving core, but what should we be the most excited about going into the season other than the obvious?
Well, Bree, you mentioned those hype videos, and one of the reasons besides the fact that it's just fun to watch, one of the reasons why those get me so excited is because every year for the past 5 years, I've asked the quarterback, are you going to get the guys together in the offseason? Yeah, we want to. We're going to try get something together. OTAs come around. Did you get the guys together? No, we didn't, but we're going to try to do something in June. Training camp rolls around. Did you get the guys together, in your time off? No, we didn't. We just weren't able to get it together. Okay, Russell Wilson took 6 days, and he had everybody down at his compound. Now, granted, I know he had the facility, he had the means, blah, blah, blah. But the point is, he just got them together right away. We have not seen a guy since Peyton Manning actually get these guys together, and it's been the polar opposite, where it's been, again, we're asking these guys 3 times a year before training camp starts, and no, it never happens. Or maybe they get together once at a park in Denver. So that is something to be so excited about, because that right there just shows you how different this era is going to be, this chapter is going to be, how professional it's going to be in that sense. And so that's why, to me, that's just so glorious, is because that's the difference between someone who's the guy and someone who wants to be the guy, who's trying to be the guy. So we got the guy, right?
Right.
So I think the other part of that, Bree, is Nathaniel Hackett. The best thing about him is his adaptability, is his desire to be innovative, to fit, what works. He's not trying to, round peg, square hole, square.
Correct. Yes.
all the above.
Either
one. Yes.
Where, Pat Shermer was like, this is my playbook. You will fit into my playbook, even though it doesn't fit any of your skill sets.
He sounds like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, and we know that doesn't work. Right. And Pat Shermer's not the only one, but that old school mindset, there's just nothing, not an iota of that exists in Nathaniel Hackett's mindset. And he said it when he got here. And he's reiterated a few times, but he's going to adapt to the skill sets of his players, of who he has. So the good thing, he's got a lot of talented players. He's got a lot to work with, right? Certainly does. But he's also bringing in guys like Billy Turner that fit in with his scheme, because the offensive line probably going to have one of the trickier jobs of relearning a total new scheme and a different style. But his ability and his desire for everybody to adapt how everybody's going to, flourish the most. I mean, he even talked about it with Baron Browning down at the league meetings about him and George Payton about potentially moving Baron to the outside if that's a better fit for him. He, that was where he thrived in college, and just that vision to not even put any single guy, peg them into a corner is something that shows you he's willing to be innovative in every sense. And I just think this team is so young and hungry. They're just going to eat this up. Like, this is the perfect recipe.
I gotta say, with everything that coming into Russell Wilson, it's almost like the cherry on top with the Nathaniel Hackett hire. But I gotta ask, with you being in media, you mentioned the Russell Wilson presser was obviously, one that you're just in awe, like, of everything of that room, and because he did command the room. What was because I feel like it was also the same way with Nathaniel Hackett too in that room, because it was like, as far as that presser, I mean, people didn't compare him to Ted Lasso to nothing. So, I mean, what was that overall experience like, even too, of being in Nathaniel Hackett's press conference? Because even then, that certainly seemed like it was a whole new experience to the previous regime.
That was like almost weird, because it was so polar opposite from Vic Fangio, right?
Yeah, right.
God bless it, sigh of relief. But so opposite, and really, truly so different than any head coach in the NFL. That kind of just exuberance and willingness to be a bit like of a goober, which I just I love. But you don't really see that from any head coach, especially on their opening presser. They're usually pretty nervous, more tied up. Maybe you'll see him loosen up as it goes. But this guy is just one of one, right? He is, and that's so true to who he is. And I love it. The energy I was so pumped, just because it was like nothing we've seen. And I don't feel like there's a coach in the NFL that has that kind of energy. There are guys, I bet Mike McDaniel's press conferences are going to be a heck of a lot of fun too. But this is, certainly, it's so exciting. It's so fun. It'll be interesting, I still think, to see what is he like when they lose. The benefit is, again, like we kind of touched on earlier, is like, well, if they lose a game, it's probably not going to be end of the world. But even so, even if in football, it's, it's not like basketball, it's not like hockey. It's not like you're going to play a game in 2 days. It's a big deal. So I'm curious to see how he's going to react. I have a feeling it'll be raw emotion, because that seems that he wears his emotions on his sleeve. And I like that, I don't think he's going to be like screaming or crazy, but I think he'll be, I think it'll be one of two things. It'll either be like, I'm so proud of the guys, we fought really hard. Right? If it was a game that they really should have won, I think he'd probably express honest disappointment. But I feel like we're going to get honest reactions out of him, because there's just he's so pure in that sense. You hope that he doesn't lose that, because he hasn't had to come to the podium every single day, 3 times a week, talk after games, talk after losses. But again, George Payton has put him in such a good position to win games, to contend, to compete, that I think we're just going to continue to see this excited version of the thing.
Yeah.
Romy, the off season has been probably one of the craziest, if not the craziest, off seasons we've ever seen. The AFC has become a complete juggernaut. The NFC does not really matter anymore.
Like Tom Brady came back. He's like, oh.
Yeah. Tom Brady came back, but he has about 5 minutes left before he goes into cardiac arrest. I don't know. That's what I heard. So, per sources. Per Brie. What do you think? What would you rank what George Paton has been able to do to be able to compete in this juggernaut that is the AFC West, who is the top division in the top conference? What would you rate his offseason as being able to really be able to be on top of that mountain?
Oh man, I give him an A+ because everybody brought in talent, but he brought in a quarterback. He brought in a franchise quarterback, right? He brokered a deal that nobody really thought was going to happen, right? And nobody else was really in it. And again, I just want to be a fly on the wall one day when in his negotiations, because that man has got to have a silver tongue. I mean, my goodness, some of the stuff, even the Vaughn trade, all the stuff he's pulled off has been, there's always something very beneficial in return. But I mean, for Russell Wilson alone, he gets an A+. But then you go beyond that, the Chargers get Khalil Mack, the Raiders get Chandler Jones, he gets Randy Gregory. So, and everything that receivers wise, well, he didn't need to go out and get any receivers. The Raiders then realized they needed to, and they got Devontae Adams. But every move that all the other teams have made, I feel like he's either has someone on the team that, okay, we don't need that, or has gone out and gotten someone of that position. He's got a ton of depth players. As soon as he, trades away Shelby, he brings in DJ Jones, which is a huge plus in the run defense, which, let's be honest, the Broncos' run defense has lacked in recent years. That has been one of their weaker spots. You just get this mammoth of a man, which, by the way, he's got a barbecue sauce line. So
Yep.
Yeah, buddy.
Yep.
Anybody tried any of that? Or
Allowed to.
Gotta hop on that. But he's just made so many moves to shore up so many positions that, again, I just give him an A+1 with the ability to compete. But what he's done to now put the Broncos. I mean, guys, we're going to see ton of primetime games again. Broncos are immediately relevant again. And again, he's put them in position to go into the draft and kind of do whatever he wants. And he's not in a pressure spot to get anybody.
Absolutely.
You talked about. Sorry,
I was going to grab a comment. Avatar wants to know if there's any news on ownership.
I mean, I think everyone knows just about the same as what everyone knows. I mean, everyone who is actually involved in ownership has signed an NDA. All of the people who are the applicants, I think a lot of the applicants don't even know who the other applicants, if you will, are. Joe Ellis has signed an NDA. I mean, everybody is there. It's very, very hush-hush. There's a reason why everyone knows about as much as what they know. I think there's really nothing kind of beyond the realm of what's really out there. But I mean, I've heard this, and Joe Ellis reiterated it, that getting an owner in place by the beginning of the season is not only a realistic timeline, but likely going to happen. So that should be resolved kind of in the next couple months. Of course, everyone does have to vote on it. There is another league meeting, part 2 ownership meeting in the summer. They'll probably vote on it there, right? And then they have the auction, which is, of course, not your it's not that kind of an auction. But my hunch is it's going to be some sort of VC group, venture capitalist group with a face. It's such a big amount of money. There are so few guys that can just come in and swoop that and buy that on their own. But yeah, I mean, I think everybody kind of knows the same amount. I think my biggest thing is you just hope it's a guy who cares about football, who understands what this team means to this city, and if it is a VC group, is willing to put more money into it. I mean, before part of the stadium caught on fire, they still needed a new stadium, right? So you want someone to come in that isn't just broke after the $4 billion and I put all my money in, I've got no money to spend. You want someone that has the backing and investment group backing that can put more money into this, into the team, into a new facility, into a new stadium, whether that's still downtown or wherever they think it might best be, but someone who can continue to put, buying the team is just the first step. So that's really the biggest hope, right? Is somebody that just understands the value of it and understands what it means to the city, right? Because you never know, right? It's a gamble. You never know what you're going to get.
I feel like it should be that kind of auction, like raising the.
It should be
televised.
Yeah, from like
streamed.
Yeah, from like Mouse Hunt. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah. Do you think Kanye's music will suffer when he has to deal with owning the team? I was just wondering.
No, I think the performance of the players is going to suffer when they all have to wear those masks on the field.
Oh, true. All the players have to wear Yeezys during the game. Yeah,
Yeezy cleats.
Yeezy cleats.
You know.
Romy, you were talking about the major waves that George Paton has made this offseason. Obviously, it's created a ripple effect just throughout the AFC West and the league itself. But I think there's a couple of question marks that are still sitting out there on a free agency island. You had recently tweeted about one of these guys, but Bryce Callahan, Kareem Jackson, Melvin Gordon, gut feeling on the three of those. Are some of them back? Are none of them back? Any reasoning what can you tell me? Because I'm struggling over here.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's interest on both sides to bring all those guys back. I think at the end of the day, it comes down to money. It comes down to deals. A guy like Kareem Jackson, I mean, they brought him back last year on a lower deal. So, would he be willing to come back on an even lesser deal potentially? With Kareem, I love Kareem. I know he's an older player, but man, that guy, for his size, the way he hits guys, oh my gosh. And he's just such a leader on that team. He's a guy that I know they're talking, but, and there's mutual interest, but I would hope that something like that would work out, because I think Kareem's a good steady force for those guys. And also on just a totally non-football related basis, but that guy's been in the league so long and hasn't even had like a sniff at a real true winning team, between Houston and his couple of years on the Broncos. Be great to see him end up on a team with Russ where they're actually competing, where they're actually in the playoffs. But I would hope that they and they still do need some depth at safety. Obviously there's Caden Stearns, and that's kind of the big question there, right? Caden Stearns kind of getting ready to step into a fuller role. So it's also a question of role. It's the same thing with Melvin Gordon, right? If he came back, he has to know full well, you're going to be the number 2, I loved Melvin and Javonte together last year. I thought they were a great tandem, and I thought it kept both of them healthy. I know everyone was clamoring for more Javonte, but it kept him healthy, especially in his rookie year. And that's a position where, man, I mean, the tread on the tires runs thin real fast. I mean, how many guys have we seen sign their big deal, and then just a couple years in, and McCaffrey, Saquon even, right, is like, it's just such a brutal position in terms of the physical beating that you take. I love the idea of still kind of splitting the reps, or at least, maybe not 50-50 like it was last year. I'd like to see Javonte get more, but Nathaniel Hackett even kind of echoed that with, you want a stable of backs. And I think Melvin and Javonte are a great team, but it comes down to 1, money, and 2, are you willing to take a lesser role? Because if you come back, Melvin, you are the backup, right? You are the 2. You're not the 1 anymore. And so, and I get that's hard for guys too, and they got to explore all their options. But, at this point, I don't know if there's been a ton of sniffs elsewhere either, where they may have gone somewhere. And with Bryce too, I know Bryce is really interested in coming back as well. And I think it's kind of the same thing, it comes down to details, comes down to money, comes down to, is there a fit? But I think both Kareem and Bryce provide great depth in the secondary. So with all 3, I'd like to see them come back, but it is interesting. Yeah. There's been not a ton of movement from their houses or whatever,
Right.
You just mentioned Kareem Jackson and raved about him a little bit, but so who are some of your favorite guys to deal with? Who are some of the most cooperative players out there?
Well, you know what, Glenn? I just saw from the league meetings today that the locker rooms are going to be open again. Woo, woo, woo. And that is so exciting, because the past couple of years, it's been really hard to kind of create meaningful relationships with these guys and get to know them, the good, the bad, and, because it's just been, they come out to the podium. And so I'm really excited to get back to that and to start kind of getting reacquainted almost with these guys again. But nonetheless, I mean, Justin Simmons is always a superstar. He's so great. He's a great human being, and he's always been so great to work with. Shelby was a blast. I'm definitely going to miss Shelby. Before COVID, when we were allowed in the locker room, he was always super honest, always willing to talk. Same goes for Justin. Justin, when I think back to like when we were allowed in locker rooms, the scrum around Justin's locker, bless his heart, because everybody knew we all came to him first because he was always going to talk. He was always open to talk in the worst times, you know. Kareem was always great too when we had open locker room. He didn't talk as much in the podium because it kind of got to the point last year where it was just kind of the same few guys always. You know, it was quarterback, it was Justin, it was Vaughn. When Vaughn was traded, then they started kind of bringing, you know, a guy, once a week, different guy or whatever. But again, we didn't really get to like make those great relationships. But I'm looking forward to that. Dalton Reisner, I know, is on the show. He's always a great guy, always willing to talk. And extra kudos because the O-line, that was a tough nut to crack there. For forever, the offensive line like didn't talk to the media. It started like way back in like the Tom Nalen days. And
Tom Nalen.
Yeah. So it was like way back. And Dalton was always willing to talk. I love it. And I love it because he's a leader of that line now. So that it kind of spreads throughout, you know, it's great. Lloyd was great too. We didn't talk to him as much, but always a great guy to deal with. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just excited for the opportunity this year to have a longer list, Glenn, when I talk to you guys, you know, and, you know, mid-October and who have you been talking to in the locker rooms? And we got a whole different list of guys that are always going to talk. I'm excited, really excited for that.
Now, I do kind of want to pick up on your league meeting because it sounds like they changed some overtime rules today. Now it's both teams get a shot with the ball, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Playoffs only, though.
Playoffs
only.
I love it.
Yeah.
I know some people are like, your defense should have played better defense. Well, guess what? We didn't see how the other no. I like
Well, no. Boom.
I love this. And you know what? I'm fine with it being just for playoffs. You know, in the regular season, we don't really need guys playing an extra 15 minutes. I'm cool with that. I'm fine with that. Honestly, I would be fine if it just stayed in playoffs. But in playoffs, it has to be. I mean, like, I just think the impetus was that Chiefs-Bills game. Like, outrageous. Because everyone was saying, the Bills' defense should have stopped Kansas City. I would have liked to see Kansas City's defense stop the Bills because they wouldn't have. Yeah. Right? They wouldn't have, and we all know that. And so I just think in terms of fairness, in terms of what we saw in that Chiefs-Bills game, I'm really happy that rule changed. And again, I'm fine with it just being for playoffs. You know, I don't care. I don't need to see the Jags and the Saints. You know, everyone gets a chance for overtime, whatever. But in playoffs, when everything's on the line, when, you know, a potential Super Bowl team get knocked out because you didn't get the opportunity, I just think it's so unfair because of a coin toss. So I'm personally thrilled about it. I love it. I know there are some people on both sides of the fence, but I'm on the yay side.
Right. You had talked about obviously free agency and retaining players. What do you think is more likely? Do you think it's more likely that the Broncos bring back guys like Bryce Callahan, Kareem Jackson, or Melvin Gordon, or is it more likely in your eyes that they address it somewhere else? Because the thing that's just George Payton's like Batman. He's nocturnal. He operates in the night where no one's watching. So So what do you think if you were George Payton for a day and putting yourself in the mind of George Payton?
You know what? That's putting on my George Payton. I got you guys. We just like. I mean, I know it's like for people who love breaking stories, it's less fun for them, but I have so much respect how he just keeps everything under so close to the vest.
Yeah.
I just want to know what he says to his staff, right? Like if it leaks, I know who did it. I love it. I love that he has kept everything so close that nothing gets out. But if I'm George Payton, I'm bringing back Kareem on a team-friendly deal for 1 year. I'm bringing back. You know what? I'm bringing back Bryce Callahan. I'm bringing back all three. I'm bringing back all three. The salary cap went up. It goes up every year. You know, you haven't re-signed Russ to the big deal yet, so you still got money. I'd like to bring all three back if I'm George Payton, unless I see some cats in the draft that I really feel like can step up right away, can play right away. You know, I feel like Caden Stearns can start, so I need a solid backup for him. I pegged my guy in the draft that fits Evero's scheme better, you know, than this player than Bryce Callahan does. Okay, then I'm okay with it. But right now, where it stands, I'd like to bring them all back with all of them understanding that they would be in backup roles. I'm not bringing any of you back as a starter. So if you're okay with that, let's talk Moolah. Let's talk, let's put pen to paper.
So do you think at where we currently stand, if we went into the draft, we would be okay going BPA, or do you think there are specific positions that we currently need to address, like priority level?
I mean, I think that they need to look at corner. I think obviously there's still a big need at corner. Obviously, you did really well at corner last year, but you're not picking 9th overall. And tackle still. I know you brought in Billy Turner. You got some nice competition there, but offensive line wise, I still think you need more depth there. And you really need a long-term right tackle. Now you're far enough down in the draft at this point. You're the 32nd pick in the second round, 64th, that, a franchise right tackle is probably not hanging out there. But if there's a guy that slips, trade up and get that guy, because that's really where you still need to find a franchise guy. Billy Turner's not your franchise guy. I like Calvin Anderson a lot, but he's obviously not in there as a franchise guy, or not one just yet, right? And they've got competition there, and I think that's going to be great. But really there in corner are your biggest needs, and inside linebacker too, as well. Yeah. So I think all of those, George, you still have a lot of picks, but you might have to trade up to get one of those guys. So as far as best player available, I mean, if you're getting down to that far in the draft, I hope you're not just waiting, to that point. The guy they really like, I hope they're making the moves. I know George loves his darts, but package a couple darts for one really, really good dart, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, over the last decade, the Broncos have basically been run by Von Miller. Like, he's been the face of the Broncos. Obviously, last year he got traded, and then there was a big fan push to get Miller back this offseason. He goes to the Bills. What's your take on Von Miller going to the Bills with the contract he got?
Man, that contract I think has him playing until he's 38 or something.
I think so.
Which would be great. There was a great graphic of Vaughn with a big old beard. I mean, he's not going to make he's not going to make 120. He's not going to be there for that long, but he's still going to make a good chunk, and I like it. I think it's a good move. I think Vaughn is just hopping from contender to contender now, which is, good for him. It's great. I like the move for Vaughn. It would have been, I think, great to see Vaughn back here. But I think at the end of the day, that was more like a warm and fuzzy feeling, right? The amount that he cost, they got a great deal. And then you look at Randy Gregory, if Gregory's able to pan out, it's a much better deal financially. Age-wise, it's a much better deal. He's got a lot more years left. So it just made sense, right? And it's like, look, we all love Vaughn. And it'd be fun to see Vaughn back here. But I think in terms of the move, in terms of the amount of money he got, he was not going to get that here, right? Yeah. If he was willing to take a hometown discount, maybe things would have, panned out differently. But also good for Vaughn. Get that money while you can, because, I mean, look, he's made a lot of money, but still, get that money while you can, because this is probably his last deal, right? Unless they release him and he floats around somewhere or X, Y, and Z. But this is his last big deal, so he, I think it worked out well for him, and I think, again, what George Paton did makes you feel better about not seeing Vaughn back, because, he went out and got a great deal here on an edge rusher who is potentially just getting into his prime. So I think it really worked out for both sides.
So, Romy, you're going up to Fort Collins tomorrow to cover the CSU Pro Day.
Yeah.
Couple questions on that. What is it like to cover a Pro Day field level? And secondly, a lot of people would love for Trey McBride to continue his career in a Bronco uniform, and I was wondering what your opinion was on that.
Oh, man, I would love that. I'll tell you what, whoever gets Trey McBride is getting one heck of a player, because he's also old school in the sense that he's a receiving tight end, but he's also a blocking tight end, and he does not mind getting in there and getting his, putting his nose in there and tackling, and he is just a beast of a human being. I mean, he is, wow, and a really, really good quality person. When he won the John Mackey Award, we were up there and couldn't have been just more gracious. He comes from a really great home, and he talks a lot about Joel Dreesen, because the kind of Fort Morgan connection and how what an honor it would be for him to continue the legacy built by Joel Dreesen. And obviously he's going to do more than that, right? He's going to do really big things, but he's just such a humble, good, hardworking, kind of like good old boy kind of a, you know what I mean, in the best way possible. So it makes you want to root for those guys even more. But I mean, his skill set is just, he's so athletic and he's really versatile. I would love to see him on the Broncos. Of course, when we're talking about now that George Paton's given away his first and second round pick, I don't know if he's going to go grab a tight end, and Trey's going to go, if not in the first round, early second. So probably won't be around. But if he was and that happened to fall in their lap, man, I would love to see that happen, because what a good dude. And then as far as being at a pro day, with COVID the past couple of years, I haven't been at one. Actually, the last one I was at was Philip Lindsay's pro day. And that was the most unique pro day I've ever been to, you guys, because this never happens at pro day. So it was in the indoor practice bubble. And when Phil ran his 40, and he just was like, the entire place erupted. Like, everybody was cheering for him. It was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. And that just doesn't happen at a pro day. It's normally very methodical, right? And everyone goes through and, but just the intensity of it is kind of what is so cool to experience for these guys. The scouts are watching them, so close, and they know this is the big, as they say about the combine, biggest job interview of your life. You can just feel the intensity, even the tension a little bit, because it's just so high stakes. It's so high pressure. So seeing these guys and seeing them do well, like when they really do well, go back to that Villains and wins 40. It's just the coolest thing to kind of see that joy and, all of the hard work they put in. And I feel for these guys, because you train and you train and you train, and then you have a couple of hours, even though there's plenty of college tape, right? But you have a couple of hours in that moment to impress the guys that are there. It's just really like an intense day, but it's exciting. And you see these guys, looking towards their next step, and kind of feel like you're a part in a way of them taking their next step is always kind of a cool experience.
Awesome.
Romi, you alluded to the fact that money talks in this league, and it's created a lot of big names moving to different teams on this offseason. So not to create a little bit of whiplash here, but I'm really interested to know where you're coming from when you consider the biggest defensive headaches that are going to be caused by Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa over on the Chargers, and then obviously Max Crosby and Chandler Jones on the Raiders. Which one of those two kind of gives you the most, EBGBs about facing them twice a year? And then on the second part of that, just how that kind of plays into who's going to be the team to beat in the AFC West coming up this season.
Nah, heebie-jeebies is right. My goodness. I keep saying quarterbacks better be scared, but bless the tackles, right? The most unfair matchups that have just ever been created of the poor all AFC West. I think it was Ryan Harris actually who tweeted out prayers up for all of the tackles of the AFC. So accurate, especially coming from an offensive lineman. It's hard to pick just one. My initial reaction goes to Bosa and Khalil Mack. But then as soon as you say Max Crosby and Chandler Jones, it's well, either or, pick your poison. I just think this is why, the AFC West is going to be a cat fight. I don't know if there's an easy matchup down the stretch at all. The only one that seems like, honestly, they're lagging is the Chiefs, which I kind of love. They still have Patrick Mahomes, right? So you can't.
That's what they get.
Right? Can't be the Chiefs are going to stink because they still have Patrick Mahomes. But defensively, they're the only ones who haven't been going out and making splash deals for splash players. And it's kind of surprising. I think it's kind of that mentality, though, where they've been on top for so long. And again, you do have, a generational quarterback that they almost, I think, have that mindset of we'll be fine, right? We'll be fine. But we'll see about that when 6 games a year, guys are literally the best edge rushers in the league are running down your throats. We'll see, right? We'll see about that.
And then you had the Tyreek Hill trade too.
Dude, no. I still can't believe that again, because everybody's loading up, and here's the Chiefs. Okay, we're going to trade Tyreek Hill. And I know that one came down to definitely money with the whole Devontae Adams deal, which is also kind of funny because the Raiders bungled that for them, which is kind of great. But I also think they saw the writing on the wall with the Chiefs. I mean, it's not going to be long where Mahomes' contract's hitting them hard. So they got to get a lot of young talent, cheap guys that they can build with. And so I think that that's obviously their mindset. But at least for this year, that's certainly not going to help them out. I mean, Tyreek Hill is one of the most versatile, dynamic players in this league. Their offense absolutely changes without him for the worse. It's unbelievable, and it's going to be crazy to see again now with guys running down Mahomes' throats, and it's going to be all three teams in the division. It's going to be interesting to see how that pans out. And honestly, the Chiefs' defense has kind of been unimpressive. They got better towards the second half of last year for sure. They were almost the tale of two defenses, but certainly nothing to. Oh man, right? They don't scare you. It's not like as you said, Bree, not the heebie-jeebies. That defense doesn't give me any heebie-jeebies. So I don't know. I just think it's going to be an arms race, and I'm excited.
And you know, I was gonna say, and continuing that to like the overall AFC, obviously, you know, the Chiefs are like almost like throwing all their chips into Patrick Mahomes and saying, "All right, you're literally our guy. Go win us, you know, a division of just that guy." So translating it to the AFC. Who are your top teams of that AFC throne? Because honestly, I think you can make a legit argument that all four teams of that AFC West could make the playoffs.
Oh, dude, Cam, absolutely. Like I'm saying, the team that finishes fourth in the division is going to be a very good football team. Like, the team that finishes third is going to be an excellent football team, right? They're very well a team that is potentially a Super Bowl contender, might not make the playoffs, because of this division, because of the way the numbers work out, because somebody's got to lose every game you guys are playing against each other. It's crazy to think about. And it's also possible that, right, three teams from this division are in the playoffs. And even then, a very good team's probably not making the playoffs, which is crazy to think about. But I think that any which way you put it, and of course, there's still a lot to like wait and see. We'll see. I mean, I have no reason to believe that Justin Herbert's not going to take a step up, but, you know, we'll see. We'll see how his next year is. We'll see how Josh McDaniels does. You know, of course, I do think he's going to be better than he was here, unfortunately.
I should hope so.
Right? I would think so. But at this point in the offseason, and again, you know, we haven't seen them play any games yet, but at this point in the offseason, there's no reason to not put all four AFC West teams in my top rankings of AFC teams. Of course, there's also the Bills, which are going to be a juggernaut once again, and now there's Von Miller there. But, I mean, right there, even if I just had to pick five, and I'm eliminating a lot of teams, but I could just go, if I had to say name your top five, I could easily go the AFC West and the Bills.
Right.
Now, we've been talking about a lot of pass rushers and Randy Gregory. He just had a shoulder scope today.
Yeah.
Do we know what that was for, if he's going to be okay? I know they said he'd be back by, was it camp or season?
I don't remember what they said. But usually scopes are not too big of a deal. I feel like I have to go back on my last statement and say the Bengals too, by the way. I can't just like leave them out of my top five. What am I doing here? So yeah.
So Chiefs are out.
Chiefs are out.
I just pop back on that one and be like, okay, what am I doing? But you know, usually scopes aren't, you know, you hear scope and scopes usually not that scooping stuff out. A lot of guys get that just all day, like all the time, right? So it shouldn't be anything, I don't think, too bad, at least from what we've heard.
The cleanup.
So,
Romy, in a past life, you hosted a radio show with Broncos legend Ed McCaffrey, and I was wondering what your favorite Easy Ed story was, and also how do you think he's doing as a college head coach?
What's my favorite Easy Ed story? I'm trying to think. Actually, my favorite Ed McCaffrey story was he was one time during the show, his chair was broken, and so it kept falling down. And so it was just like he was this tiny man. It was like he was at the bottom of the thing, and it kept going like this. And it was like Ed, and it's funny because Ed's so tall. And he was like, and I remember him going, "I'm a big man. I'm the man of the house." He was very upset about his tiny chair. But Ed was always just fun. Ed was always just kind of like lighthearted and easy to work with. And he just kind of went with the flow. He was definitely easy ed, I would say, for sure. I'm trying to think if I have any, like, I don't know. I don't have any like crazy stories, but except for the chair. But it was always just kind of like easy ed. He just went with the flow. He kind of rolled with it. So it definitely just an easy guy to work with. And yeah, I mean, I think he's doing a great job up there at UNC for someone who honestly wasn't qualified to get that job in the sense of he had no college coaching experience, right? So, and then he came in the COVID year. So having to deal with all of that, I think he's done remarkably well in learning the ropes at the college level. That's really challenging, right? So it'll be interesting to see now. I'm excited to see kind of what he does with a full year. And I was talking to him. We actually had him on the show a couple weeks ago. We had him on a show on CBS, and I was asking him afterwards just like about the recruiting piece, and he was kind of talking about how that's been a whole new element, how that part of the job is something obviously you have to learn because you don't do that at all in high school, and how it's nonstop, right? So he's kind of learning to balance that now with everything that's going on, which I certainly don't envy. That recruiting thing, especially now and today in the day and age of NIL, is a whole different beast. But I think to come into a college program, and he's done a lot with UNC in terms of kind of getting them. I didn't know this actually until he told me they were the only team in the Big Sky that didn't have lights in their stadium. Crazy. So they play like in the middle of the day. So little things like that. He was able to get them lights, all that kind of stuff. So, all the things you have to do. You're a manager of a whole business up there. So, and I just wish him the best of luck too.
Well, I was going to say for UNC's sake, I mean, they're like almost second or third fiddle in that, in college football. I mean, you have the CSU Rams, you have the CU Buffs. So, I mean, they're just, well, I mean, actually maybe in fourth or fifth now with CSU Pueblo and Colorado Mines, now starting to get into some really good football programs. I will say you being a cheerleader and then obviously covering the team now with the Broncos, what are some of your favorite memories, like favorite moments when you think back to the Broncos history that you can recall?
As a part of either a cheerleader or a media
person? Yeah.
Well, my favorite memory as a cheerleader was definitely Super Bowl 50. Hands down. I got to bring my dad, which was amazing. The Broncos were really gracious. Everybody got to bring a companion. So I got to bring my dad, which I'll be like forever grateful for. So cool. And then the Super Bowl after party was just the best. It was the bomb. It was super fun. And it was so fun that whole season was really fun to be a part of. It just had a special feel. Yeah. Right? It wasn't the offense of the prior years or anything like that, but that defense and like getting to watch that defense field level was just such a joy, like such a gift. Oh my gosh. And I just will like remember that forever. And then of course, all of that culminating in the Super Bowl, and actually the AFC Championship game that year was absolutely epic at home. Those were, as in terms of probably cheerleader memories, two of my absolute favorite. In recent memories, I had like 2 stints as a cheerleader. So before that, before that I was around for like the Josh McDaniels years. So I was like,
control
so
alt
who was
delete.
the entertainment at the Super Bowl party?
What?
Who was the entertainment at the Super Bowl after party?
Flo Rida.
Mm. Nice.
I learned he's from Florida recently.
What?
I learned he's from Florida recently.
Is he?
Wow.
Did your chair sink down, Boggins?
What?
I know he's really low on the ground.
He's doing that. McCaffrey. It's
Yeah. You know, I have a really important question for you, Romi. It's really important. What does it mean to you that the next bachelorette is a former Denver Broncos cheerleader?
Oh, you know what?
Yeah.
Team Gabby all the way. I got to tell you, I never watched The Bachelor actually before this season. And then I found out Gabby was on it, and I was on the team with Gabby for a year, and she's like a ham. She was voted team clown. And I was like, I'm kind of surprised Gabby's doing this. Like, I don't know. I just hadn't really watched the show, and she was like, she didn't strike me as someone who would go on it, which I guess is being rude and judgy. So I take that back. But so this was the first year that I watched it, and it was so great. It was so fun. And she was so great at the end. She just like told him off. I was so proud of her. But it was like I had someone to root for, so I was really into it. I was really into it this season, watching it, and I'm excited that she's going to be the Bachelorette. So yeah, she's a good egg. She's like a really good person. So it was kind of fun watching it, knowing like who she was, right? And they played her personality pretty true to who she is.
There you go.
Yeah.
So if anybody in here is forced to watch The Bachelor, you have a Bronco on there. So there you go. There you go.
Romy, it would be remiss of me not to mention just what a true inspiration you are, not only to myself in this space, but to all the women who are watching and everyone who just wants to get involved with the team, and just your attitude and your compassion, your work. I'm not trying to brown nose. I just have to get it out here because I think you're incredible. But I do think that you left yourself off of that NFL Combine Denver media event list. And I want to know, because I know you are incredibly athletic and competitive. Tell me, which one of those events would you have won? Because I'm rooting for you.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for those kind words. That means more than I can ever express. Like, that means so much. There's been so many women that have helped me get here, and really my goal at the end of the day is to hopefully pay it forward, because it's so cool to see all of the women just thriving in football. And I do really feel like we're getting to the point where we're all just people covering the sport. It feels less like, oh, you're a woman in sports. It's just, you're a person in sports. And I think that's so cool to be part of an era where it really feels like it's transitioning like that. And also so much support from all of the men who have championed me as well. So I would be remiss if I didn't mention that as well. And Bree, I just love seeing you are just absolutely killing it. I'm so glad you guys added Bree. What a beautiful addition. Strong, smart.
We're glad that we added Bree.
I love it. Yes. Badass. Great choice. So I just love it. Makes me so happy. And gosh, I don't know. I feel like I used to be fast, but I don't know. I feel like maybe, I would say maybe like the broad jump, but like there's just these like really, like Nick Kosmider's so tall. So like by default, he's going to be able to jump farther as well. Right? I feel like, you know, and it's like, he's like, Nick Kosmider's like 6'2", 6'3", I don't know, but like his legs, I just feel like he's going to get there farther. I don't know. I think
So which medium?
I feel like he's just going to whiz right by, you know? And like my instinct is I want to say the 40, but I feel like that wouldn't happen. But you know what? I'm gonna go with the 40.
There we go.
So which media member after their combine performance would find themselves to be an undrafted free agent?
Probably Chris.
Oh yeah. I can see him benching. Everybody. Yeah. Once he comes out of the bush, he would be so good at benching.
Real tough. Yeah. I don't know. Who else would be an undrafted free agent? I don't know. Yeah, see, I feel like Kliss would be like sneaky good all of a sudden. I do know we got like a knee replacement last year, so maybe he could win the 40.
Whoa.
He's bionic now.
Yeah.
$6 million man.
I don't know. But honestly, like, it's so cool that Seattle does that. I'm like, why are we not doing that here? Like, it's so great. I know Seattle will put that on forever. It's just such a fun thing. I love that they do that. I wish they would do that here. It would just be so fun. I don't know.
Now, I kind of want to get into, we've talked Broncos. I kind of want to get into one of the big news stories, and obviously Deshaun Watson. I don't want to talk about him. I don't care about him.
Yeah.
But Baker Mayfield seems like he's getting pretty widely screwed by the Browns right now.
Dude,
does he leave? Do they keep him? Like, what are we doing with Baker Mayfield?
Dude, this is so crazy when I think about this quarterback offseason. Like, the two guys that you didn't think would get moved, Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson, got moved in blockbuster trades. And then the guys that, you thought would immediately have a new home, a la Jimmy Garoppolo, and even Baker Mayfield too, are just sitting around. They're sitting ducks. It's like unbelievable. It's so weird. Such a wild turn of events. With Baker, though, I think they would have to trade him, right? Or release him. But either way, I feel really bad for Baker. I feel like he's getting totally hosed right now. I don't know if teams have been like really, really aggressively calling. But if you're a team like Seattle, which obviously it just feels like they want to tank, but why are you not calling about Baker Mayfield? What are we doing here? If you're the Texans, why are you not calling about Baker Mayfield? What are we doing? Even the Dolphins, I don't know. The verdict, I guess, is still out on Tua, and I know they're sniffing around at Tom Brady, which that would be, oh my gosh, Tom, my goodness, right? But even then, why are you not calling about Baker Mayfield, Washington Commanders, right? All of these teams, it's just shocking to me that Baker Mayfield's just kind of a sitting duck right now. And honestly, again, I know there's kind of mixed on Baker, but he's way too talented to not be being moved right now at all. And it's like it's wild to me. And the Garoppolo thing's kind of just really interesting too as well, because that guy's value has just gone like down.
How great would it be if the Browns cut Mayfield? He signs with the Steelers for the veterans minimum. His contract's guaranteed, so the Browns have to basically pay him to play again, and the chip on his shoulder in that division would just be astronomical.
And he would 170 that, like, that's so in Baker's makeup to go play for the Steelers. I could see Baker, like, if that happened, taking less money to play with the Steelers than to go somewhere else, just so he could go and beat the Browns, right?
Absolutely.
And honestly, I would love to see that. I would love to see what he's like with Mike Tomlin, who's just such a stable, legendary coach. Yep. I would love to see that, and I don't know. I like Baker, so I'd like to see Baker succeed. I'm a Baker fan, so that would be so cool. I'm pulling for that.
So I guess where do you see Garoppolo going? Because I feel like, I feel like the San Francisco 49ers, and them drafting Trey Lance, I feel like they're kind of like winners and losers, like in this situation. Because you get Garoppolo to still, be that, developmental guy for Trey Lance, but then you kind of, are, not giving the reins yet still to Trey Lance. So, I mean, like, they're kind of winners and losers right now, like with the whole quarterback cycle.
I mean, yes and no, because Kyle Shanahan also is the kind of guy that'll be like, well, sorry, Jimmy, you're on the bench as soon as
right.
And I guess for them, if Trey Lance doesn't, being the guy that they sold the farm for, if he doesn't pan out, well, then I guess you still got Jimmy, right? But that's never a dynamic you really want to be in, right?
Right.
You can't really ever go back, right? Well, once you make that decision, you can't go back. And if you bench him and you bring him back, it's just you can't go back. But for them, it puts them in a position, I guess, where they got two really good quarterbacks.
Right.
No. But also, you'd like to maybe get something if you could for it.
Do you think? Oh, sorry. What were you saying? Oh, okay. I was gonna say. So, how much do you think this offseason has kind of shown the rest of the league that has shown that the rest of the league doesn't really want any of these quarterbacks in this upcoming draft as much as everybody may have thought?
No kidding. And you know what? I'm still hoping one of these guys comes out and surprises everybody. And of course, that's only something we'll know 5 years down the line. But I mean, it's such a clear showing. This is like unbelievable, where it's really like nobody is gunning for any of these guys to really be my starter. I mean, there will be someone. I mean, and I've heard a lot of really draft experts saying, none of these guys even deserve a first round grade. Will they get drafted in the first round? Yes, because they're quarterbacks, and that happens. But to be in a year where there's no quarterback that anyone really feels like has a first round grade, is crazy. I still feel like one of these guys is going to end up being successful. I mean, you look at Russell Wilson. There's a lot of guys that don't end up getting drafted right off the top, but nonetheless, it's going to be something everybody can't be wrong, right? And it's just unbelievable. There's even with the combine, like the combine had some of their worst ratings, and normally it's the quarterback day that it's just everybody watches and people are like. And honestly, when that Aaron Rodgers news first broke that he was conflicted, my tinfoil hat theory was like, the ratings have been terrible at the combine because nobody cares about the quarterbacks. They got to make, and then all of a sudden everybody's watching NFL Network. Oh my gosh. Because now we're talking about Aaron Rodgers. It was just oddly coincidental that it came at the end of a night where their quarterback day ratings were terrible. So all kind of funny.
Now, one of the things I was pounding the table for last year was Denver to be on Hard Knocks, and it didn't happen. And then like now it's the Lions this year on Hard Knocks. I still contend that Nathaniel Hackett on Hard Knocks would be fantastic.
Oh, my heart.
He would be fantastic. Absolutely. It'd be sound bites for days. I remember when they were thinking about hiring Hackett, I like went over to like the Packers site and all of his mic'd up were just like hysterical.
Yeah.
Some of the funniest mic'd up I've like ever seen. I was like, oh my God, this guy's such a ham. He's hilarious.
Right.
But I think part of it is because Hard Knocks you can only do Hard Knocks if it's a bad team. But it does feel like it never feels like it really benefits a team to have just cameras around everywhere. So I've never like loved the idea of Hard Knocks. I know it's kind of like a poopy, like,
but still,
I mean, and all the characters in the wide receiver room, I mean, there'd be lots of personality. It'd be great. It would be hilarious. I'm not gonna lie, but yeah, I can live without it.
It could still be like a mid-season one, or not, with like early season one, kind of like the Colts did.
Oh, right.
Where they kind of did they doubled up on it. So there's still a possibility.
But see, this is where behind the Broncos comes in. Like this is
exactly
why we
Cam.
But the Browns also had behind the Browns too. So it's kind of like I want HBO Max in there. They have like cool drone shots.
I mean, like the HBO. I mean, the way they put Hard Knocks together is fantastic. But they haven't had like a great season in a really long time.
Yeah,
my favorite.
Keep picking teams that have like no drama on them.
I know, right?
There's just nothing.
But that's the other thing too. It's just like a different day and age where I think all those cameras in there and guys, you're a lot of ways are afraid of. There's so many things you can't say. You can't.
Yeah.
You got to be so careful, right? That it's going to end up on social media. I think it's like a little bit, it's harder to kind of let loose, I think, with those cameras around as well. And again, it's usually teams that are not doing great, or did poorly the past season. So even though everyone's optimistic at training camp, it's like a different vibe. You have less fun. We've seen that on the Broncos. Like training camp's going to be so much more fun this year, right? But like, it's been a lot less fun the past few years because it's like, well, what can we have fun about, right? We haven't had a winning season in this amount of years, So I think I don't know. I think that's part of it too.
Yeah, for sure.
What was your favorite Hard Knocks?
Ooh, like ever?
Yeah.
I think the first Cowboys one.
Ooh, that was a good one.
Back with Romo.
Yeah. That's a good one.
I was gonna say the Steelers one because I remember the Steelers one where James Harrison was there and they were going through like all of his routine, like his like workout routine, and like and then they did like his acupuncture routine, and I was just like,
oh my God,
like a complete eyeball situation. Like he uses that amount of needles and that amount of like preparation. Like it was just crazy.
Well, like you look at like the Hard Knocks now, and then like the very first one with the Ravens. Two completely different shows.
Yeah.
See, I like the Bengals one when they had Chad Johnson as well.
Yeah, I was going to say Bengals one, or even the Texans ones that wasn't too long ago with Bill O'Brien. You got to see Bill O'Brien, and my God, he didn't
Vince
care about
Wilfork with his coveralls.
Yeah, and Vince Wilfork going against going against Carly Lloyd. That was that was fantastic.
Vince Wilfork in his coveralls is one of my favorites.
Yeah, the cowboy hat dancing on the side like what?
What was that guy's name? He was from USC. He was a linebacker. And I just remember him like
Cushing.
Cushing.
Cushing
on the show, and I was like,
scary dude.
Royds will do that too.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, it was very Roydy. He was.
So one last thing I kind of want to cover. We kind of glanced on a little bit, but I think outside of Russell Wilson coming to Denver, Davante Adams going to the Raiders is probably the biggest signing in the AFC West. How big of an impact is he going to make on the Raiders? And is Denver going to be able to keep up with Davante Adams on the Raiders?
He's going to have a massive impact. I mean, already because him and Derek Carr obviously have such a connection. So that comes back. That comes into why is Russell Wilson working with these guys right now to establish that connection, right? They've got so much history. So 1, 2, he's just an unbelievable player. I mean, he's unbelievable. So absolutely, he adds a huge dynamic element to their offense. Someone that I'm sure Josh McDaniels just licking his chops. He's going to be able to utilize him very well. I think it's the perfect situation for Davante Adams and for Derek Carr, and especially after all of the trouble that they had last year with their receivers. They needed a star receiver. By the end of the year, they didn't really have anybody receiver wise. I mean, respectively, if you will. But I think that, and we'll see, and Nathaniel Hackett kind of alluded to it, but he said, I'm going to have a couple things cooked up for him. And I think that's where the Broncos at least have an edge, I think, compared to the Chiefs, compared to the Chargers, is that Nathaniel Hackett has worked with him and actually was a big part of his development. That was a big kind of story coming in. He wasn't just that he knew him. He worked with him, and he worked very closely with Devontae Adams and helped improve his game. So he knows how he ticks, right? He knows what's going to bother him. He knows, I'm sure, what kind of coverage takes him off, what affects him the most. And so I think because of that, the Broncos are at least going to have a little bit in their back pocket to be able to throw a couple things that affect him, because luckily they have, between Hackett and Outen, they've got enough history to know what affects him. But at the same time, he's just an elite athlete.
Right.
Still, it's going to be 50-50. He'll get the better of him sometimes, and sometimes some of the plans Hackett has will work.
Well, and karma to you, Aaron Rodgers. That's what you get. That's what you get.
No joy. Especially because he said it wasn't about the money. And I was like, really?
Right.
Well, we definitely do want to thank you, Romy, for joining us. It has been fantastic.
Oh, man, this has been such a treat, you guys. Thanks for having me. Sorry, I just jabber.
Oh, that's
Any
what
day.
we
Jabber away.
Jabber away. Where can people find you, follow you, watch you? Where would you like them to do that at?
Oh, let's see. I'm on Twitter at Romi_Bean. On other platforms, just at Romi Bean. And then if you're in the local area, I'm on Channel 4, CBS 4, Wednesday through Sunday. So you can find me there as well. And just hopefully a lot of good things to talk about this coming football season, guys.
Oh,
That's
I
right.
hope so. Now make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, share, turn on notifications so you can catch all of our content when it's posted. Again, this is the 5280 podcast. We've got the Wild Wild West coming out, which is going to be the AFC West show, which is going to be fun. I think it's going to be fantastic, especially with how the West is this year. Woo! It's going to be fun. And then your Nothing Rhymes Orange and Blue on Thursday, and then Broncos Bill is moving to Friday with Broncos Breakdown. So make sure you check that out as well. Again, Romy, we want to thank you so much for joining us on the show. Go Broncos!
Thank you,
Guys.
We're going to go ahead.
I just want to say thanks for having me. You guys are all awesome, all of you. I love all of you guys. So this was fun to be all in the same room together today.
Woo! Right?
No.
It's fun being able to
Romy,
talk and still have more things to talk about because there's so much going on.
I know.
I love it.
God bless it.
God bless it.
All right, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow with Broncos Breakdown. And then you got Nothing Rhymes on Thursday. So we will see you guys tomorrow. Thanks, Romy. We'll see you later.